Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of CAL FIRE's Office of the State Fire Marshal's webinar series. Today's episode, we will focus on smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and how the Office of the State Fire Marshal relates to both. My name is Kara Garrett, and I will be the moderator of this series. The webinar will last about an hour and it will be recorded. Please type any questions into the Q&A portion of your screen. After our featured speaker has completed their presentation, we will be holding a question and answer session. Should you encounter any issues, please do not hesitate to call me or text me at 916-201-5539 or send me an email at kara.garrett@fire.ca.gov. I also put all of this information in the chat. So to get us going, we are going to move on with our speaker of the day, who is Chief Bryce Bennett over our Fire Engineering Investigations Division. And I will go ahead and turn it over to him. So take it away, Chief.
Thank you so much, Kara. It's always a pleasure to take a moment to go over some of the different things we do in the Office of the State Fire Marshal. So if you're joining us today, we really appreciate your time. And perhaps you're joining us via recorded. So you're using this as a tool or a reference tool for maybe if you're a fire prevention officer, or maybe you are a property manager of some kind and just have a curiosity about what the rules and regulations are regarding smoke alarms, or even how they work. So we're going to kind of go over different perspectives. We'll start at kind of a more overview of how they work, what they do, why they exist, and then we'll get into the weeds a little bit deeper regarding law and code within the Health and Safety Code. So as we talk about smoke alarms, obviously they're a safety device. And I want you to keep in mind too, do you know the difference between a smoke alarm and a smoke detector? Talk about that in just a second. So smoke alarms play an absolute critical role when it comes to preventing death and injuries in properties. Most fire deaths occur when people are asleep. And how do we wake up during a fire? We rely on that smoke alarm. Fire moves so fast within a structure, it's not really describable by normal terms. The statistics show that it moves exponentially every 2 minutes within a structure. So having working, functioning smoke alarms is absolutely critical. So 3 out of 5 fire deaths occur in homes with no smoke alarms or no working smoke alarms. So we say no working smoke alarms because they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Once you put them on the ceiling, you don't really revisit them. We always, as fire prevention officers, try and remind people, typically you'll hear the prevention alarm sound, if you will, when it comes in California to change your clocks, check your smoke alarms. In past, we used to say check your batteries, but that is no longer the case as we have moved on to 10-year battery systems. So we want you to test your smoke alarms. Another statistic here, more than 1/3 or 38% of the home deaths that result in fires are from where no smoke alarms were even present. So we try as fire prevention officers to impart how important these devices are to being a life-saving device. And it's a very simple device. The risk of dying in your home is cut absolutely in half statistically if you have a working, functioning smoke alarm. But they also need to be properly placed. That's a key important piece of the puzzle as well. Again, fire moves very, very fast. There is very little time to escape a fire. And a lot of times in a structure fire in a home, the most dangerous thing is smoke, not the actual flaming front. One of the solutions to this that was created was an interconnected smoke alarm system. So smoke alarms now in new homes are connected to each other so that not just one sounds. When one is triggered, they all sound at the same time. This alerts everybody throughout the structure. The other thing also when sleeping, closed doors save lives. And that's another National Fire Protection Association's mantra when we're teaching our children or getting them accustomed to sleeping as they grow up through the years. We want to teach them to sleep with the doors closed. This prevents the movement of fire and absolutely saves lives. Working smoke alarms have always been a key component of a home escape plan that we hope you would build with your family in your home. But it is a critical component. As it says, there is little time to escape. It only takes minutes for that thick black smoke to fill your home. The thing is, too, that thick black smoke is superheated, and it's not something that we as humans can breathe. That's why firefighters wear those self-contained breathing apparatus to fight these fires. It is extremely dangerous. Other tips from the U.S. Fire Administration, smoke alarms and alert devices can be installed for people that have different needs, such as people who are deaf or blind. There are different features that can be installed within homes of people with these needs, not just strobe lights or hearing assisted devices as well, but there's also those for the deaf, such as a pillow shaker or a bed shaker. And these can actually be found also for those people that are traveling. You can request special rooms in hotels. This is something that hotels do provide as well. It's a tremendous device and brings another layer of comfort for those individuals that may need such said devices. Yes, as I mentioned before, testing smoke alarms. So I had mentioned earlier the difference between what's a smoke alarm and a smoke detector. So a smoke alarm is a single unit device that we're all pretty familiar with in our own homes. Perhaps maybe we've had one installed too close to a kitchen and maybe had a pizza get run away from us in the oven or something like that and trigger the smoke alarm. Now, a smoke detector is one that is connected to an alarm system and part of a system that's working together. In commercial occupancies in California, those detectors can be many different kinds. We have ionization, photoelectric, beam systems. We have all these different types of devices that can sense different things, whether it's particulate matter in the air or an actual chemical reaction. They're for different things and different speeds of fire. But know that as long as you test your smoke alarm in your home at least once a month, you have that peace of mind to know that these devices are ready to be used. Now, smoke alarms do have a shelf life. They only are good for 10 years. Now, how do we know when their shelf life ends? They actually have a manufacturer date on them. And that is to protect you because the sensory device within it, as well as the battery, will degrade tremendously after the 10-year mark. And we want to make sure that you have the right equipment that is up to speed and ready to work when it's needed. As these are life safety or life-saving devices, you want to make sure that we're testing them every month and we're making sure we're replacing them after 10 years. Not to mention that the technology evolves too and gives an opportunity for you to upgrade in the future. Now, one of the things about smoke alarms is that they are one of the listed devices with the Office of the State Fire Marshal. So in California, you need to have the ability or the listing, your device listed in order to sell it in California. This presents a challenge for any of us that are maybe shopping online or using an online shipping service of any kind. We want to make sure that you are purchasing a California State Fire Marshal listed smoke alarm. And the way to do that is to look for the listing seal. There's another way to do that, and by searching the building materials listing website, which I will show you in a little bit. However, one of the easiest ways is to go to your local hardware store and find the device on the shelf. It will have the listing and the OSFM seal. Now, where should we install smoke alarms? Smoke alarms belong in every sleeping room. They need to be outside of each sleeping room or in the vicinity, like in a hallway where there are multiple bedrooms possibly split off from. Every additional story, if you live in a home with multiple stories. And they need to be within an area that they only function in 40 degrees to 100 degrees. So an attic is not a place to put a smoke alarm. It'll false trigger, or a freezer basement of some kind. I know we don't typically have those in California, but maybe if you live in the mountains or whatnot. It needs to be in a climate controlled area. They're not designed to work outside of that temperature range, and their effectiveness is severely impinged, if not completely removed. Like it may just fail completely if you go below that. One of the biggest questions we get is, do you normally put a smoke alarm in a kitchen? No, but yes. You don't want it near a heat source, and you want to keep it at least 10 feet away from a cooking appliance. So some kitchens, it may not work. You might want to put it just outside the kitchen. Some kitchens might have such a high ceiling or have such a vast area that it might be warranted to have a few smoke alarms, but never within 10 feet of a cooking appliance or near a heat source like a heater vent or something from your HVAC system. So what if you live or rent an apartment? So one of the things that you want to make sure when you're looking to rent an apartment or live in an apartment area is to work with the manager of the facility to make sure that the smoke alarms are up to date, they're not more than 10 years old, and make sure they're properly located. It is absolutely your right to have them installed in each sleeping area and outside each sleeping area, as well as if you live in a multi-story apartment on each floor. That is well within your rights in California as far as the fair housing is concerned. So with that simple overview of smoke alarms and whatnot, we can move into the laws and regulations. Now, being that we're the State Fire Marshal's office and work with many different agencies to build the foundation of the laws and regulations in California, local jurisdictions do have the authority to adopt through their regulatory process more stringent rules and regulations. Now, this is why we always tell people to make sure you check with your local authority having jurisdiction if you have questions. Anytime you have a question or a need, maybe you need help when it comes to installing or changing a battery, or maybe your mobility is impaired so that you don't want to get up on a ladder. If you check with that local fire department that's protecting your property, I guarantee you they have someone who is available, whether a prevention bureau person or even an engine crew, to come out and assist you and make those decisions because they want you to be safe as well. Also, there are programs typically through local authorities having jurisdiction. If you are unable to purchase a new smoke alarm, they may have some for you. So always encourage you to check with the local fire agency. So back to the laws and regulations, they began requiring it in new occupancy construction since 1992. The way that it kind of catches up to is we say alterations, repair, and additions to structures trigger updated requirements. So that's a way that maybe an old building never was affected by these rules, but anytime you start changing or altering or making improvements on a building, a local fire marshal will typically require the new requirements, and that's for everyone's safety. Now we start getting into the nuts and bolts of things. So within the health and safety code exists many rules and regulations when it comes to smoke alarms and the authority given to the Office of the State Fire Marshal. One of the things within the Office of the State Fire Marshal is the building materials listings. Building materials listings is where we capture the devices that are mandated by law to be listed and approved. So how do they become listed? Well, they have to meet a certain testing criteria through an approved laboratory. Typically, Underwriter Laboratories, or the UL stamp that is all too common for us to see. We maybe don't necessarily recognize what it means. It means the device has been tested to a standard, and that standard was created to make sure that it will function as designed. And in California, we, the Office of the State Fire Marshal, and the building materials listing engineers are the ones who review those testing data and to make sure these devices are functioning as designed, and then meet the criteria and then get the approval to be listed. So sole battery powered smoke alarms are a thing of the past, and they're no longer allowed to be sold in California. Now, if you have one, these are the smoke alarms that just have a 9-volt battery in them. This is from the past where we said, check your clocks, change your batteries. These are no longer allowed to be sold in California. If you have one that uses a 9-volt battery, we implore you to look and find the manufacturing date of that smoke alarm. If it is more than 10 years old, it is time to replace it. We absolutely encourage you to not replace that battery and put it back up there, but to replace it with a new style smoke alarm. The new smoke alarms have a 10-year battery within them, so that you do not need to remove the smoke alarm and change the battery ever. But you should be pushing the test button and checking it once a month. So, but at that 10-year mark, you want to make sure that you replace that smoke alarm as well, should you still live in the same structure. Now, beginning in January of 2015, the smoke alarm listings state that they have to show the date of manufacture on the device, and they have to provide a place for the device where you can write when it was installed. So that helps you understand, or have a spot too, to really know, is it about that 10-year mark? You know, how many of us think about changing something 10 years down the road within our own homes? So having a reminder of some kind is a very, very good idea, but also being able to reference when that device was made to see when it's going to expire is very, very important. The hush feature is the other one as well that can be, that is mandated now, excuse me. One of the things with the hush feature, as we bring that up, is all too common when a smoke alarm goes off, maybe we assume it's a false alarm. But is it really a false alarm? Because the smoke alarm is detecting something is wrong. So we need to treat that as there is something wrong and pay attention and take into account what might be causing that to go off. A little more on this when we move into carbon monoxide detectors. That is super important. Continuing through the health and safety code a little bit more, this is kind of more towards the fire prevention officers and whatnot, those of us using this as an enforcement tool. We start looking at what is within our scope of practice or whatnot. So smoke detectors intended to be used with a fire alarm, a household fire alarm control unit. This is more towards commercial devices and smoke detectors instead of smoke alarms. See, here's our difference between the two. Smoke alarms will send a supervisory battery signal depletion signal to fire alarm or household fire alarm control units via low power radio frequencies. These are more of the commercial devices that communicate with a central brain. These are all listed devices as well, and they function as a unit together to protect commercial occupancies. Some of the newer devices also are wireless and using low power radio frequency communications as well. So this is where I wanted to take a quick moment and bounce out of the PowerPoint. And I'm going to show you the link here that takes us over to our building materials listings. So if you go onto the CAL FIRE OSFM webpage, you can find building materials listings underneath the Fire Engineering and Investigations Division. This has a phenomenal amount of information when it comes to the different devices. Obviously, smoke alarms is top of the list here, but it also has a search tool. If you are looking to see if a particular device is listed or there's some question maybe on the validity, you can certainly use this and find it here. Now, there are other things that are listed within building materials listings, and they are a tremendous resource if you scroll around and find their different things. But you can also find the email to the program right here, bml.program@fire.ca.gov. Absolutely send any of your questions to the building materials listings engineers. They'd be happy to help you out. Back to our regular scheduled program here, moving through. For consumers and end users, this is where we start talking about the real nuts and bolts of where they're placed and whether they're required. When you're in, say, a residential apartment complex or whatnot, the exiting installed needs to be in working condition. Smoke alarms are not required to be replaced. The reason is because they are an alarm, or a detector, excuse me, in some cases, not an alarm. It more goes into the rules where human occupancy is intended. This has to do with mechanical rooms and different things like that versus residential. But this is the tenant improvement, or when we're talking about making additions or improvements to structures to catch up on maybe something that wasn't required in the past. But now we know better that smoke alarms save lives. And so it's become a requirement. And fire code officials are responsible for enforcing these requirements when they come across tenant improvements in residential structures and any structure that is designed for human occupancy. It kind of sounds weird to people that maybe are not a code official, but not every building or mechanical space is intended for human occupancy. So these are some of the technical terms that we use to kind of direct the law, if you will. Now, back in, this continues further into rented or leased spaces and whatnot, and it gives you more information about the requirements and the enforcement agencies and kind of what the rights are of you as a person who might be renting a space. What kind of leverage do I have if a landlord is refusing to replace a smoke alarm or install one at all? You absolutely have rights for that. And here's a link to the OSFM website too. You can find all kinds of contact information should you have any issues with that. But again, the local authority having jurisdiction would be happy to help you. Now we move into carbon monoxide alarms. Now, here is a quick and easy quiz for you. Which of these kill more people in the US each year? Shark attacks, lightning strikes, or carbon monoxide poisoning? Well, if you picked carbon monoxide poisoning, you would be correct. Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that more than 400 people die each year in the US from unintentional CO poisoning from different products and motor vehicles. Carbon monoxide is, well, we'll get through the statistics here before I give you that fun fact. Shark attacks, there's only about 1 death each year from Oceana, and lightning strikes, there's about 32 from NOAA. Carbon monoxide is a byproduct of incomplete combustion. So what that means is when there's fire, that doesn't burn complete. So how does it get to us and how does it affect us? So it enters the body through breathing, and it actually can be confused. It'll make you confused because it displaces the oxygen molecules in your bloodstream. And it actually fakes the body out into thinking that the monoxide is oxygen. And it blocks the body from properly perfusing oxygen into the blood. So what you will find is someone will act confused, almost intoxicated of some kind, maybe flu symptoms. You will also see that they might have cherry red lips is one of the things we're directed to recognize as medics. Some symptoms could be shortness of breath, nausea, dizziness, light headaches. But one thing to remember is this is an odorless, invisible gas. So when you have a carbon monoxide alarm go off, it is not a false alarm ever. You want to take that with the utmost care, utmost seriousness, and respond accordingly. So where do you put these? When should I put these? When do these carbon monoxide detectors come into play? Well, we always recommend that you follow the manufacturer's recommendations on placement and mounting height. Carbon monoxide is a near neutral buoyant gas. So it doesn't rise or fall per se like a heavier gas like propane per se, which falls because it's heavier than atmospheric air and will follow the contours of the earth. Carbon monoxide can be both depending on temperature. So we recommend you follow the manufacturer's recommendations when it comes to mounting place and height. You want to make sure that it has a listing, just like a smoke alarm. These must also be listed with us and have an underwriter laboratory testing stamp. You want to find out what may be the proper thing to do when my alarm goes off. Again, tying in with that local authority, having jurisdiction, that local fire department to see if there's a non-emergency number they want you to use, or if it's a 911 that they prefer you to use. If you have an audible trouble signal, you want to check for low batteries. Now, don't just install the device, read the instructions. There will be different chirps or different audible tones that it gives to signal an alarm or to signal a low battery. Many of these are battery backup. They require a power source, so they'll typically plug into a wall, or they'll be tied into a rest of an alarm system. If you do have your alarm sound, immediately move to fresh air and open up as best you can. You want to make sure that everyone in the home is accounted for, and you want to call for help from the fresh air location and make sure you're clear until you get emergency personnel there to test the air. Fire departments have CO, carbon monoxide, detectors that they can bring into your home, and they can see if there are acceptable levels or dangerous levels. This is very, very important to make sure. Again, this is an odorless gas. You can't see it. You can't smell it. So it's best to utilize the resources and have the fire department come out and make sure it's safe, as they can hopefully find the source of what triggered that alarm. Now, one of the places that we have seen this to be more common is when people are using a generator backup of some kind because their home lost power. Now, placement of that generator is very, very, very important. Typically, we lose power during storms when there's thunder and lightning or rain from trees taking out power lines and whatnot. So some people may not want their generator to get wet or think that it will malfunction from getting rained on while running. The fact is, typically they're built so that they can be out in the weather. You do not want to run them inside your home inside a garage. They need to be in a well-ventilated outdoor area. It's very, very important because, again, the incomplete combustion of any device, whether it's a malfunctioning water heater or a poorly cleaned oven or a generator, can create carbon monoxide. And the best way to prevent that from entering your home is making sure that generator is away from your home. This also goes for motor vehicles when maybe it's a cold morning and you want to warm up your vehicle in the garage. Do not recommend that whatsoever. Carbon monoxide is absolutely present in combustion of a motor vehicle. So make sure you move that vehicle out onto the driveway, away from the garage, away from the house, so that carbon monoxide is not even an issue. Now, I have experience with this, having worked on the fire engine up in a snow-borne area in the Tahoe area. Snowstorms can block all of the vents in your home. They can block the chimneys. They can block the natural ventilation that occurs in our homes that we need. So you want to take effort to make sure that you're clearing your dryer vents. You want to make sure that your chimney is clear. Make sure that any of the vents for your water heater, the places around your doors and whatnot, it's very, very important to make sure that you clear those things from snow, because snow can act as an airtight seal, and that holding in the carbon monoxide or products of combustion can asphyxiate you within your own home, and you wouldn't even know it. Because again, carbon monoxide is odorless and absolutely not visible. So where should you put it? So they should be installed in a central location or outside each sleeping area on every level of a home, kind of similar to smoke alarms, right? So this is where it might be different for your local area, and you want to check with your local authority having jurisdiction. Different laws say that maybe you do need to have a carbon monoxide detector outside of each bedroom. Maybe you only need to have a carbon monoxide detector near the kitchen or any devices that use a open flame. It depends on your area. You want to see it. They can carbon monoxide detectors can interconnect just like smoke alarms, the new ones. So if one goes, they all trigger so that it alerts the entire house. And that's the very best situation that we can do to make sure that I keep everybody safe. So that's the best recommendation that we can give, is you get the latest and greatest one that works with other devices so that they can all communicate an emergency together. Back to testing. Smoke alarms and COs share the same testing criteria. So we recommend that you test them once a month. You keep it simple. You test them both at the same time. You only hear the beep. You're good to go. And that gives you the peace of mind to know that they are functioning. Now, these didn't come into play until the Carbon Monoxide Poisoning Act of 2010. We were directed to develop certification and decertification processes for carbon monoxide devices and listings. The reason is so that we can evolve with technology with these devices and not just use old technology to keep people safe. We want to continue and move along and evolve with new technologies to do our very best to prevent anyone from getting hurt in the future. One of the things that we run across is everyone assuming that you might have a false alarm. Well, when a device is alarming, it's functioning. So what's false about it? Well, did I overboil a pot of pasta and it's steam that is triggering a smoke alarm? Well, the alarm is definitely seeing particulate matter in the steam. So it's not really a false alarm. It's functioning as designed. So maybe you put the smoke alarm in too close to your cooking surface, right? So we implore you that if one of your devices triggers, treat it as an emergency every time, and then validate to see what triggered the device. Now, as we get further into the Poisoning Prevention Act here, we go through some of the different requirements and whatnot, and also the direction that was given to the fire marshal's office by the elected officials to create a fair market sort of situation so that the consumers in California have an expectation of the device to function as designed. And this is where the listing process and validation through the underwriter laboratories is important. Now, the different, within the PowerPoint here, if you click on these different links, once it becomes available in the webinar, you can find these different health and safety codes. Now, this link will take you to LegInfo. This is the California Legislative Information page that allows you to search through the different laws and regulations in California. Now, this is a tremendous tool, but obviously not necessarily the easiest read all the time, and we recognize that. So we're are happy to help you through understanding different laws and regulations by contacting us. But this is where these rules and laws live. It's a tremendous resource for any fire code official or any code official that needs to be able to back up any of these things with the appropriate law. Now, property owners and property management companies that may be seeing this webinar, you have your own sections here as well that you can fall back on that state the requirements for you, or I believe there's also innkeeper law in there as well for hotels and whatnot. So some of the other things too, the different resources, obviously I've already shown you the fire engineering page for building materials listings, and we went through and took a quick look at the LegInfo page, but here they are bookmarked for you. They're a tremendous amount of information and a little overbearing at times, but if you take a little bite at a time, it's quite an easy read. And also I mentioned the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association. They are a guide and a tremendous resource for anybody, both the public, teachers, and educators as well. They provide all kinds of resources to teach children about home fire safety, cooking safety, and the U.S. Fire Administration and FEMA. Also, another link here for both smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. And now we will open it up for any questions. Kara, I'll turn it back over to you to moderate this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chief. And I know those who are attending virtually and who are not panelists, go ahead and give Chief Bennett a round of applause. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. So we do have one question in the question and answer box, and that is from Aaron Holland. Will this presentation be available for viewing on demand? Yes, it will be available on our webinars page. I will put that link in the chat, and the recording of the webinar will be available later this afternoon. And if you're following us on social media, you'll see right when it's posted. So stay tuned for that. And we will also have the PDF download of all of these slides. So feel free to use them as needed. And also at the end of her portion of her question, she said, excellent presentation. Good to see you, Bryce. We miss you at the TFFT. Yeah.
Tahoe Regional, Tahoe Fire and Fuels team. Thank you. I miss you guys.
Fantastic. So now if you have a question, go ahead and use the raise hand feature on your screen. It should be in your toolbar, and we will go ahead and unmute you. And if you don't feel like going off of mute, feel free to type in your question into the question and answer section as well. We do have a few minutes, so take your time. Feel free. We'll wait a couple seconds to see if anyone has any additional questions. Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Chief. This was absolutely fabulous. and you kept it interesting, which I love. So
Well, I
very
couldn't I
cool.
couldn't do it without the team. Thank you so much to all the people in engineering investigations, the engineers and the staff and the crew. Definitely helped put this all together, and you for moderating and putting it together. Thank you so much, Kara.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. All right, so if you're interested in any future updates from the Office of the State Fire Marshal, including updates on upcoming webinar episodes in 2025, go ahead and subscribe for updates on this subscription page. And as promised, I'm going to put in the chat right now a link to our webinar page. So let's get that in right now. That way you can save it in your favorites and have it ready to go. There you go. And before I end this webinar, I'll give everyone a chance just to click on that and see what it looks like. And I will also open it right here. So if you click on this later this afternoon, you will see the upcoming webinars move down to past webinars. And then you'll be able to see the recording as well as a link to the presentation as a PDF. Also, when you're on this page, we have all of our past webinars from this year so far. So if you're interested, give those a watch. But until then, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all for being here, and I will go ahead. Oh, we have one question that was typed into the Q&A portion from Ivan Vasquez. Are there any grants available for smoke/carbon monoxide detectors?
As far as I know, not on our level, but you want to check with your local fire department. Typically, it's part of the Fire Prevention Bureau that has a stockpile of smoke alarms and detectors and carbon monoxide alarms and detectors. So I encourage you to check with your local authority of jurisdiction.
Thank you, Chief. All right, perfect timing, Ivan. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you.